My best friend was a registered sex offender. Hello, Exploraholics! Hello, Exploraholics! Welcome to the video today. I'm going to be telling a quick story time, hopefully a quick story time. I've already filmed this once. It was 37 minutes long, so I'm going to try to break it down to the most important details for the story. So let's just dive right in. This story happened senior year of high school for me. What I learned from the story is that coworkers can make or break a job, for sure. So I had just gotten I guess you could be like, I just got out of a relationship with Chick-fil-A. I had terrible managers and coworkers there. So I really hated that job. I really liked the company and I still support it and I still eat their chicken, but that's a whole other story time I could tell you about. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to hear that, because it's almost as crazy as this one. So I used to work at Subway, and the one that I used to work at is actually closed now, which is a very good thing because it did not need to be open. So how I got this job was my brother actually used to work there, and everybody started quitting at the same time for some reason, which happens a lot at Subway actually. So they needed some more employees. My brother highly recommended me, said that I was a good worker, whatever, and the manager asked me for an interview. He came home all excited to tell me, but I was still healing from all the stuff that happened with Chick-fil-A, so I was not looking for a job right then. However, senior prom was coming up and I knew I would need a dress, so I decided to go to the interview. My brother and I shared a car for a while, so he drove me to the interview, and when we showed up, it was actually during his shift, so he was going to be working while his manager interviewed me, which is kind of funny. His boss at the time was cleaning the line and getting things in order, and he's singing this song from Cinderella. And I love Cinderella, so I started singing with him. When he turned around and realized that there was somebody there, he started singing even louder. We started just belting it out and having so much fun, and so the interview went really smooth and I got hired. Also, Subway's always desperate. So I was instantly friends with this manager. We're gonna call him Cinderella because that's the song that we were singing, and we used to sing it all the time at closing, and I just feel like it really fits his personality. So he was gay and used to hit on my brother, but my brother even still liked him as a manager and as a person. So he was a really good person. We had the exact same sense of humor and we used to sing together all the time. And he used to actually, because we worked next to this, it's not a sketchy part of town, but it was this hotel that turned into kind of extended stay / apartments that turned into the main place to do drug deals apparently. Because of that, whenever we were closing, he would actually walk me to my car. Cinderella worked 2 jobs. He was also a bartender downtown, and he used to plan his breaks around my schedule if I was the only one closing, and he would drive to the Subway to walk me to my car after closing just to make sure that I was okay. He was the most amazing manager. He went above and beyond to make sure that all of his employees were safe and happy. So for this job, I actually had something at school called senior release. That was when you were able to get out of school one period early as a senior to go and work a job, which I had the job at Chick-fil-A when I signed the contract for it and then quit my job because so now I had this job and I would get out of school early, but when I got the job initially, it was over winter break, and so I could work different hours over winter break. And I asked Cinderella, do you want me to put on the application that I was filling out in front of him during our interview the hours that I can work right now on winter break or once I go back to school? And he said, put down the hours right now and then I'll talk to you later and we'll get the ones for school worked out. So that's what I initially did. That's important later. So after I worked there about 2 weeks, I was working while he conducted another interview with a guy, we'll call him Bob, who he ended up hiring. But during the whole interview, he kept sending me to the back and being like, hey, go check on the bread, make sure that there's enough in the fridge for later, go check on the cookies, make sure they're not burning. Random things he'd send me to the back for. And then whenever a customer came in, he would stop the interview, which wait for me to make this person's sandwich and then send me to the back again and finish the interview. There's a screen in the back so I could watch the whole thing and see that it was like a normal interview. So I was really confused, but we'll get to that later. So he ends up hiring Bob, and at first he never schedules me with Bob, ever. He ends up scheduling me with another girl instead. We'll call her Katie. So Katie and I end up working together a lot, either with Cinderella or eventually as I'm getting more familiar with Subway without Cinderella. And that way he could work in the back and do manager stuff while she was still able to train me because she was a more advanced employee. She was actually friends with my brother, so like when she found out that I was his sister, she was so excited, and we like immediately hit it off. We were good friends. We used to like serenade each other when nobody was in the store, and sometimes even if there were customers in the store, I would still sing to her. I don't know. Like there was this radio station that we used to listen to all the time, had like the same 10 songs over and over again. You know, those like top 40 radio stations, and you're like, where are the other 30 songs, you know? So while I was working there pretty much every day at the same time, when she was getting off of work, Stay With Me by Sam Smith would come on, and I'd like serenade her, and I'd be like, stay with me, with this like interpretive dance in the background, you know? And she'd be like, no, I have to go. And we'd make this whole like dramatic scene about it. It was so much fun. I was having so much fun working there. Honestly, at this point in my life, Subway was the highlight of my day. I was hating high school. I was so ready to be done other than prom. So eventually it ends up that I have to have a shift with Bob, the person that he had hired, like around the same time as me, but not quite. He scheduled himself with me and Bob, and I noticed throughout the day that he kept like staying really close to my side. Like Cinderella would like make sure that Bob was in the back, I was in the front, or vice versa, and wherever I was, Cinderella was too. And I was thinking that it was a little bit like obsessive almost, and I wasn't really sure what was going on, but I definitely noticed that it was a red flag. Even as a high schooler, I was like, something's up here. So eventually Cinderella had to go to the bathroom, so he left, and during that time Bob told me, he's only 2 years older than me, by the way, I feel like Bob makes him sound old. He told me that he was a registered sex offender. I don't know if that's true or not. There's a lot of crazy things that he ends up telling me, so I'm wondering now, looking back on it, if it wasn't like some of this was just crazy lies that he made up for some reason. But yeah, so he told me that he was a registered sex offender and that like legally he had to tell me that or something. I was really confused and scared. And we worked together several times actually, but every single time Cinderella was also there, and he kept a close eye on us and whatever. So I never really felt like in danger or anything. He was very careful about it. So I have no reason to not believe this, but it also seemed really strange. So the only thing about Bob was that he would be nice for a while and then all of a sudden make an inappropriate joke. So just when I was like starting to let my guard down around him, which shouldn't happen, honestly, because he had given me no reason to believe that he had changed or anything. Just as I started letting my guard down, he would make some kind of inappropriate joke, or for some reason like touch my arm or something, and I just wasn't comfortable with that. There was one day that he wasn't relenting on the inappropriate jokes and like trying to touch my arm, trying to touch my back or anything like that. Cinderella sent him home early. I ended up doing the closing duties that he was supposed to, which I was fine with. I didn't have any commitments that late at night or anything, so I just helped him close. And I specifically remember this day because Bob got sent home early. We sang the Disney soundtrack. I don't know why that stands out to me. There's like so many dumb little details that stand out to me throughout this story, but I specifically remember this day. I was also scheduled to work the next day, so at the end of the night, as always, he walked me to my car. Everything was normal. I went home. The next day I came back for work and Bob was there, and Bob was not scheduled to work with me that day. It was just supposed to be me, Cinderella, but Bob was there, and so was the district manager, who I'd met several times. He knew me, he knew my brother, whatever, and he was viewing the security tapes, like very focused on viewing the security tapes. So I said hey, and he like didn't even look up, and I was like, okay, whatever. And he kind of like turned the computer so that I couldn't see it, and like whatever. So I saw Bob and I was like, hey, I didn't know that you were scheduled to work today.
I don't know.
So I went to the back to go check on if we were scheduled to work together or not, and the schedule was just gone, and there was some guy there.
What's up? I'm Brad. I'm your new manager. We're gonna have so much fun.
What happened to Cinderella?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
What happened to Cinderella?
I can't tell you anything.
What happened to Cinderella?
Oh yeah, Cinderella was arrested.
Brad, you can't say anything. We haven't finished this legally yet.
What? What? I remember this moment so clearly. I literally sat down because like like what? So then the district manager needed to talk to Bob, and so he went to go interview him like privately, and I was alone with Brad.
I hate girls with blonde hair. My ex had blonde hair, so I hate you.
So then once they left and it was just me and Bob, I asked him if he knew what was going on. Do you know what's going on?
Cinderella was arrested at work today. He has been stealing from the company for 2 years.
What? I was so baffled. Like at this point, I had no idea what to fully believe because I still don't fully trust Bob. But I do know that it is true that Cinderella was arrested at work. And it is true that I never saw him again. And the district manager said I could never contact him again. And I did know from the time that my brother was working there, which was about 2 years ago, that somebody had been stealing from the company. So it all kind of made sense. I had no reason to not believe him other than I didn't want to because Cinderella was amazing and I didn't want to believe that any of this was true. Basically, what Bob told me was that Cinderella had been asking Subway or the owners, I'm not really sure because it's like a franchise, he'd been asking them for a raise several times over the last like couple years, and he has 2 jobs but neither of them have health benefits, and so he can't afford his prescription medication, so he'd been stealing like $2 a week from the company. That's literally it, and that's still stealing, yes, but if they had just given him a raise, they would still have this amazing manager. And I didn't know what to believe because honestly, I have no idea if Bob told any of the truth. So after a few weeks of working there, I realized that Katie's not there anymore, so I asked Bob what happened.
Yeah, so actually, Katie was supplying drugs to Bob, so when she found out that he'd been arrested, she quit and ran.
What? What is this story? Like, oh my goodness. So suddenly she's gone. Cinderella's gone. Half the employees are gone. We got a new worker. I'd never met her. She couldn't work the same days as me. So I didn't meet her until much later. So now I no longer have somebody to walk me to my car at night. No one to make sure that like Bob over here stayed in his lane, you know? So I was really nervous. After a while, Brad started scheduling me during school hours, even though he knew I was going to school. Hey, I can't come for this shift next Wednesday because that's during school hours. I'll be in school, so I can't come.
That's not my problem.
Would you like me to switch shifts with somebody? I can talk to Bob, see if he can cover me.
You put on your application that you could work during these hours, so it's not my fault. You better be here.
So that's what I mentioned earlier about asking Cinderella specifically if I should put
On the application, the hours that I could work during this school holiday or during school, and he said the school holiday, and he would make a note of when I could work during school when school started back again, which it had, and he made a note on there. I saw it on the application, but there was a sticky note that said during school days, these are the hours she can work.
He was just so annoying, and so I was able to get Bob to cover for all of my shifts during school that he kept scheduling. So my biggest issue with Bob was that he was very like manipulative, if that makes sense. So he actually used to try to get people to like pity him, feel bad for him, like he was just this hero who was just trying his best. He used to walk to work even though he told me he had a car and could drive, but he'd always walk to work and be like,
It's okay, I can walk. It doesn't matter about me. It's for the betterment of the company.
whatever. And he and Katie actually got along really well, which confused me because I felt like Katie had a really good head on her shoulders. She was kind of like my older sister, so I just kind of like, she trusted him, so should I? Like, it was a really confusing time in my life. So then there was the issue of the tomatoes. Here's what happened. Working at Subway. Oh, hey, Bob, we're out of tomatoes.
Oh, hey, we're out back here too.
Okay, I'm like gonna go to the grocery store that's like 2 doors down on the other side of the pet store, and I'm gonna buy some more tomatoes.
Okay.
Brad's been gone a really long time buying those tomatoes, huh?
Yeah, let me check my phone. 3 hours? He's been gone 3 hours buying tomatoes.
What?
I just got back, yo. I bought 2 tomatoes. save the day, Brad did.
You were gone 3 hours and bought 2 tomatoes at the grocery store 2 doors down. What? Who in their right mind thinks that Subway can survive the rest of the day on 2 tomatoes? And who in their right mind takes 3 hours to buy 2 tomatoes? I could manage the Subway better than him. I know he doesn't want to be here, but that doesn't mean that he has to drive the company into the ground. So now we're back to another really confusing time in my life, because at this point, I don't think we have any other employees in the company, just Bob and me and Brad. And I hate Brad. And so at this point in my life, which was really difficult in high school, my best friend was Bob, a registered sex offender. That's where my life had ended up. So here's the thing with our Subway. I had known that there were rats. I had only seen one the whole time that Cinderella worked there. He took care of it immediately. He literally used to climb up in the ceiling and place rat traps. He put them under the line. We always would, whenever we opened an ingredient, put it like the lid back on immediately and close the hole, like glass thing folds down, all of that. We were taking such good care. So our Subway was actually next to a pet store, and the pet store would leave pet food out because it's a pet store, and so the rats would come to get into the pet food, wouldn't be able to, and would come into the Subway instead. And then one day I was working with Brad and Bob, and here's the scene that took place. Working at Subway, making a sandwich. That's a rat! Brad, there's a rat. It just ran under the line, and you need to take care of it.
What do you want me to do about it?
Take care of it.
Rat traps are expensive as
fluff.
So I'm not going to be taking care of this. We can totally use that money, like, somewhere else. So what if we have a few rats? Like, that's not a big deal. Oh, and by the way, in the future, because we are gonna have rats, if one, like, runs up your leg while you're making a sandwich and there's a customer there, like, don't react, because we can't have them knowing we have rats.
I have a taser. I'll take care of it.
Brad was telling us not to put lids back on because it was taking too long. He wasn't going to buy rat traps because they were too expensive. To just ignore the fact that rats might run up your leg while there's a customer, like, no? Now, the only reason that Brad was even the manager was because his parents were the owner or something like that. I don't even know, but he didn't want to be there either. And he told us that a lot. So I wouldn't let my friends come and eat there. I wouldn't let my family come and eat there. There's mold in the ice machine that he knew about and would not take care of. Like, there were so many issues with this. He told me, like literally half of this was illegal, like, honestly. So at this point, it's still winter. I still don't have enough money for a prom dress, and I get the flu, and it's literally the worst case of the flu I've ever had. I haven't had the flu that much, but, like, this was so bad I could not, like, hardly get out of bed, and it came on, like, really fast. So I ended up going to a clinic, and after he did the flu test, was like, yes, you have the flu. You cannot go to school for 5 days, and you definitely cannot go to work for at least that long, because he knew I worked at Subway. He knew that that's, like, obviously around food. You have the flu, you're contagious, don't go work with food. So I called the store. Hey Bob, I have the flu. I was wondering if you could cover my shift on Thursday.
Yeah, sure, I'll cover your shift.
That's the only shift that I have for while I'm contagious. I won't be able to work until probably Monday.
Yeah, okay, sounds great.
Okay, thanks. Can I talk to Brad, please?
Yeah, let me give you to Brad. Hope you feel better.
Hey Brad, I have the flu. I already talked to Bob. He's gonna cover my shift, but I won't be able to work until at least Monday.
Okay.
I only have one shift during that time, so just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, bye.
So the new schedule comes out, and I texted Bob, and he, like, read my message and didn't answer it, so he didn't send me the schedule. And so I thought that was kind of weird. Like, he literally didn't even say, like, hey, I'm not at work right now, or, like, anything. He just didn't respond. So I went to the store on the way home from school one day. I went to go check the schedule, and there was this lady there, and she was one of, like, I told you about the other employee that I had never met because we never worked on the same days. And so I asked her, I walked in, she's like,
What are you doing here?
hey, I'm just here to check the schedule because, like, I wanted to know when I worked.
Brad fired you.
What? You literally can't fire someone and not tell them, so I don't think they fired me.
Well, I'm not in charge. I just know that he said that he fired you and said all sorts of bad things about you.
Listen, I just want to make sure that you're not like either mistaken on accident or like pulling my leg, like some kind of prank, whatever. So I'm just gonna go check the schedule if you don't mind.
Fine, whatever. Go see it for yourself.
And so literally I asked her if she knew why he fired me. If she didn't know, she wouldn't tell me something. I don't know, like this was the weirdest thing ever. And I tried calling Brad, he'd never answer. I tried texting Brad, he'd never answer. I tried calling the store, whatever. I knew he'd be there and he wouldn't answer the phone. He like would tell them, I could hear him saying like, tell her I'm not here. He fired me but wouldn't tell me and they wouldn't answer my calls. That's not okay. So I kept going into the store and there was this new employee there and she was like,
Hi, welcome to Subway. Can I take your order?
hey, I'm just here to talk to Brad.
Oh.
Brad.
Not here right now.
Listen, I work here. I know that Brad tells you to say that even when he is here.
Oh, you work here? So you know that he's been gone for 2 hours buying tomatoes.
Yikes, I'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll tell him to call you when he gets back.
So I came back the next day. Hey, can I talk to Brad?
I know.
Brad.
Still not here.
What? So I came back the next day.
Brad. Strep throat, so he won't be here today.
Okay, I've had strep throat several times, and I know that it's contagious for 24 hours. Okay, that's what the doctor says. You can miss like 1 day of school, take this antibiotic, so you're fine, right? So I came back the next day. Hey, is Brad here?
Oh,
Brad.
still has strep throat.
Then I had a whole bunch of stuff going on in my life. My parents actually ended up paying for my prom dress. Thanks, parents. So I went back a week later.
Oh, no, he still has strep throat. I know it's been a week. He's still not here. I'm sorry about it.
So he literally fired me for having the flu and missing 1 shift, which I got somebody to cover for me. And then he's out for a week for a 24-hour contagious issue. What? What? It's literally the same thing. Only he's missing way more shifts and I had somebody cover my shift. So now it's down to like, he already told me he hated me because I had blonde hair. So I'm guessing he fired me because I had blonde hair. Honestly, like that's what it comes down to. So one day, I'm so tired of this all. I just need my last check. I go in, he's still not there, and the same girl's there, and she's like, you here to see Brad? I'm like, yes, I'm here to see Brad. And she's like, well, Brad's not here, but this lady is. Now this lady was, I don't remember her title, but she was somewhere in human resources. And so I was able to talk to her. She asked me what my issue was. And I told her that he had fired me from, as far as I could tell, having the flu and blonde hair. And I explained the whole situation to her. She fully believed me because she knew Brad. And so I guess there's like paperwork that you have to like fill out when you fire someone. So she went back into the back and fixed the paperwork to say that I had quit rather than been fired so that I didn't have to explain to future employers that I got fired for having blonde hair. Okay, so in these receipts, the blue is Cinderella. It's like a Cinderella blue. Black is anyone who doesn't really matter in this narrative. Green is Bob. Pink is Katie. So here's just some proof that lots of people were quitting at the same time. This is just showing that Bob and I were added to the group chat at the same time. This shows that for some reason Bob would walk to work all the time. This is Bob being manipulative, like I talked about earlier. And this one is the big one. This one is the day that Cinderella was arrested during work. Katie saw it from her apartment and messaged the group chat, and we never heard from Cinderella again. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to hear more work stories, make sure you definitely give this video a thumbs up and comment below. If you've had any kind of similar situation or like what your worst work story is, I want to hear. Make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell icon so that you get notifications when I post. And I hope y'all have a fantastic day. Bye.